Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Digging Up the Past, where I actually dug people up. I dug up a Chinese miner, an American farmer's wife, and an Irish lady. Later, we will be talking 1v1 with all of these people, getting to know them a little better. And now for our first guest, I would like to welcome a miner from the Chincha Islands. Hi. Hello, can you please tell the audience why you're on this show today?
Well, I was brought to the Chincha Islands to mine guano.
Nice. How did you end up becoming a slave and a guano miner?
Well, I agreed to work on an 8-year contract in the California gold mines. I couldn't afford the journey over to the New World, so laboring up as a slave makes up for the cost that it would take for me to be brought there. But I was taken advantage of, and I was brought to the Chincha Islands to mine guano instead. Guano is made from bird excrement and is important for agriculture because it restores the crops when they start to die. This is why the fertilizer is in high demand throughout all of Europe, and the need for labor to mine it is so necessary.
Nice. Thank you. Nice to know. What was it like being a slave on the Chincha Islands?
Well, working as a slave here is torture. All 100,000 of us are forced to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. If we don't meet the quota for the amount of guano that's supposed to be mined by the end of the day, we receive a whipping. Some slaves are also forced to do other tasks like constructing roads or working in sugar or cotton plantations. 2/3 of our pay is used for rooming on the island.
Oh my gosh, that is terrible. I know there were many deaths from the miners, especially suicides. Did you know of anyone who jumped off some of the cliffs? Did you ever think about killing yourself as well because the conditions were so harsh?
Yeah. Lots of slaves who I worked with became so fed up with working here that they threw themselves off of the cliffs and into the ocean. One day, the only friend I made on the island said he was going for a walk. Next thing I know, he's floating face down in the ocean. So many people died that the overseers had no choice but to mark off a whole acre of the guano mines as a mass cemetery for the victims. The things that happen on this island are so terrible, and I would do anything to be able to leave.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through what you did. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Talk to you later. And now I would like to welcome our second guest, the American potato farmer's wife. She's coming.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No problem. Can you just answer a really quick question that why you're on the show today?
Yes, because I've lived in the tragic time of the Colorado beetle.
I know you are a hard-working wife on your husband's potato farm. The Colorado beetle strongly impacted the Americas because it fed on the potatoes you needed in order to live. I read that some potato farmers woke up in the morning and suddenly saw a layer of millions of bugs feeding on your precious potatoes. Can you describe what this was like for me?
Yes, it was a devastating time for me and my husband Abraham. Bugs have always bothered us, but it has never been on such a large scale. I will never forget that one morning I was making breakfast for Abraham when he came in with a worried look on his face. He told me to come out into the field immediately. I walked out to see thousands of little yellow bugs with black stripes covering our field. There were so many I could barely see the potato leaves. We had no idea where it came from or how to stop them from eating the potatoes. I was so scared because we lived off these potatoes and could not bear to lose them. It was how we got our money. We would have nothing without them.
Wow, that must have been frightening. Was there anything you could do to try to get rid of the beetles?
Oh yes, we tried multiple things. We needed these potatoes to help us survive. We couldn't bear losing them. We doused the plants with lime. Nothing. Sprinkled sulfur. Nothing. Spread ashes. Nothing. Sprayed them with tobacco juice. Nothing. Nothing was getting rid of these bugs. They were unstoppable. My neighbor said they mixed coal, tar, and water and splashed it on the beetles. Some tried wine, Others tried kerosene. Nothing would work until we discovered Paris Green.
I heard of this solution called Paris Green. I was told a story about the creation of it. There was a farmer who just finished painting his shutters, and when he got angry, he threw some of his paint onto the beetle-infested potato plants. There was an emerald pigment in the paint called Paris Green, made mainly from arsenic and copper. What were some positive and negative effects of this pesticide?
I didn't know how it was invented, but all I knew was that it worked. All we had to do was buy it, mix it with some flour and water, sprinkle it onto the potato plants, and watch those beetles die. I'm telling you, this was sent from God. Not only did it kill the beetle, it killed all sorts of other bugs too. Green led to the creation of many other insect killers. I remember Abraham and I would spray so many different substances on our crops that there was no other life on our field besides the potatoes. This was bad because if it didn't rain for a few days, the solutions would build up on the soil and create a terrible residue. But it got worse with all these pesticides. The beetles became immune to it. The devil has cursed us because these beetles were here to stay.
Thank you so much for being on my show today. I'm so sorry to hear what you had to go through with the beetles.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now for our final guest, the Irish lady.
Hi.
Hello. Can you say why you're on the show?
I went through the Great Hunger.
I'm so sorry you had to live through the Great Hunger and had to witness so many deaths caused by starvation. From past knowledge, I know the Great Hunger killed half the population in Ireland, and it left families with two options: to die of starvation or to steal food from other people. Did you ever steal food from anyone for the survival of your family?
Yes, it sure was hard. Being that I witnessed my children both die and my husband left me, I was all alone with nothing to eat. It's just so sad that I grew up eating so many potatoes. They were everywhere, you know? And then they were just gone. I'm not going to lie, I did have to make some life-changing decisions. I have stolen food before. I had to do what I had to survive. I stole from the rich who had plenty. I would never steal from a person with the same status as me.
This must be very hard for you to talk about. Do you mind if I ask a few more questions?
No, not at all. Ask away, that's why I'm on the show.
Okay, thanks. The crime rates went up, especially murder. Did you know anyone who was murdered so someone could take their food?
Well, my two little girls were given food from a nice, wealthy man. I was so pleased that day. It gave me hope. I didn't have much, but that sight gave me enough to get through what happened next. 3 men dressed in thin, ripped clothes jumped on my baby girl. I was inside our little torn-down cottage, looking from the top window, while they were at the end of the driveway. I still remember the panic that ran through my body. As the man leaped onto my daughter, I froze. The men tried to take the bread from their little hands, but my 2 little fighters wouldn't let go. They held on for dear life. As I ran to save them, I heard a bang, and then the screaming stopped. My first step out of my house was slow, impatient. I still remember the sight. My beautiful daughters were on the ground, blood running down their face. The bread was gone. I ran to their bodies and couldn't believe what had just happened. That same night, my husband left me. You might be thinking how I made it through. Well, the answer to that is my girls. They held on to that bread for their life. And that's what it cost them. So I lived every day after that with the same attitude. I couldn't take life for granted. And I found whatever food I could, and sometimes stole. I had to.
Oh, that's devastating. One more question. Before the Great Hunger, Ireland was thriving because potatoes created a population boom, because they were easier to grow and they held many healthy nutrients and vitamins the body needs. They grew effectively and were able to grow in poor soil. What was it like living in this great period of time? Tell me some details about the people and how much of a population boom there was, even though I already know it doubled Europe's population.
That was a time. While I was growing up, there was enough potatoes to last a lifetime. It was amazing how great the industry was. People ate potatoes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When Ireland gained the potato as a crop, people started having babies left and right because no one had to worry about food. It was just always there. For myself, and I think many others would agree, that I feel ashamed to have taken the potato for granted. They were just everywhere. I felt as if it were normal. I would have never thought the Great Hunger would have happened.
That must have been so hard going from having so much potatoes to literally nothing.
I know.
Next question. What are P. infestans?
Oh boy, I know a lot about this. P. infestans is a type of water mold that also counts as a fungus. It tends to attack members of the nightshade family, such as potatoes, eggplants, and tomatoes. When blown in the wind, it sends out spores. If this method succeeds and the spores land on a plant, it releases zoospores, which are mobile cells that travel through the moisture on the leaf or stem, looking for the stomata so it can infect filaments. And then, after germination, they invade the cells of the plant and change the structure and functions that performs inside. The plant ends up providing for the fungus rather than itself, and as a result, the outer skin of the potato turns dry and turns a red-brown color. It's nasty. Because the distinction between the healthy and contaminated part of the potato tissue is unclear, the entire potato is thrown away.
Thank you so much for being on my show today. It must have been so hard going through what you went through. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, you really can't. Because you live here in America with everything. When I go through the Great